What do you do when life hits you in the face? What do you do when the prayer didn't get answered the way you expected? What do you do when the doctor gives you news you didn't want to hear? What do you do when people walk away from you? When money gets tight? When the door closes? When betrayal shows up? When grief sits down beside you? Because the truth is, life happens to everybody. Not just unbelievers, not just sinners, not just people far from God. Life happens to believers too. And if we're honest, sometimes Christians feel like we're not supposed to feel anything when life hurts. We think faith means we can't cry. We think faith means we can't struggle. We think faith means we can't feel pain. But today I want to show you something powerful. When life happened to Jesus, he cried. He got angry. And sometimes he walked away to be alone. And if the Son of God responded to life that way, maybe we need to learn something. The shortest verse in the Bible says this, John chapter 11, verse 35. Jesus wept. 2 words. But those 2 words carry the weight of heaven. Because when Jesus arrived at the tomb of Lazarus, Mary was crying. Martha was crying. Friends were crying. And standing in the middle of all of that pain, Jesus cried too. Now think about this. Jesus already knew what he was about to do. He knew Lazarus was about to walk out of that grave. He knew resurrection was about to happen. Yet, he still cried. Why? Because Jesus wasn't just powerful. He was compassionate. He felt what people felt. He saw their pain. He entered their sorrow. And someone listening to me today needs to hear this. Crying does not mean you lack faith. Tears are not weakness. Tears are human. Sometimes life hurts so deeply that the only response is tears. David cried. Jeremiah cried. Peter cried. Even Jesus cried. And if Jesus could cry, you don't have to pretend you're okay when you're not. God is not afraid of your tears. In fact, the Bible says God collects them. Psalm chapter 56, verse 8 says, "You keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected all my tears in your bottle. Every tear you cried, God saw it. Now here's something else we don't talk about much. Jesus didn't only cry. Jesus got angry. When he walked into the temple and saw people turning God's house into a marketplace, the Bible says he flipped the tables. Matthew chapter 21, verse 12 says, Jesus entered the temple courts and drove out all who were buying and selling there. Imagine that moment. Coins flying, tables flipping, people shocked. Why? Because Jesus was angry about what dishonored God. Now let me be clear. There is a difference between sinful anger and righteous anger. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 26 says, "Be angry and do not sin." In other words, anger itself is not always the problem. What we do with anger is what matters. Jesus didn't let anger control him. Jesus didn't let anger turn into revenge. But he did allow anger to express righteous passion for what was right. Sometimes when life happens, you may feel anger. Anger about injustice. Anger about betrayal. Anger about wrong things happening. But the key is this: don't let anger turn into bitterness. Don't let anger poison your spirit. Bring that anger to God. Let him shape it. Let him heal it. Let him use it. When life got heavy, Jesus often stepped away from people. Luke chapter 5, verse 16. But Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed. Notice that word, often. Jesus didn't wait until he was burned out. He didn't wait until he was emotionally empty. He regularly stepped away. Why? Because solitude restores the soul. Sometimes the best thing you can do when life happens is not talk to everybody, not post on social media, not explain yourself to the world. Sometimes the best thing you can do is get alone with God. Jesus did it before big decisions. Jesus did it after big miracles. Jesus did it after difficult moments. He went to the mountain. He went to quiet places. He went where the noise stopped, so he could reconnect with the Father. And maybe that's the word for someone today. You're exhausted, emotionally drained, mentally overwhelmed, spiritually tried. And the reason might be you haven't stepped away. Sometimes healing begins in quiet places with God, even with tears, even with anger, even with loneliness. Jesus always returned to one place: trust in the Father. When Jesus was in the Garden of Gethsemane, life was about to hit harder than ever before. Betrayal was coming. Beatings were coming. The cross was coming. The Bible says Jesus was so overwhelmed that he sweat drops of blood. But listen to what he prayed. Luke chapter 22, verse 42. Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me. Yet not my will, but let yours be done. That prayer shows us something powerful. Jesus was honest about his feelings, but he still surrendered to God's will. And that's the balance we must learn. We can be honest with God about how we feel, but we still trust him with how the story ends. So what do we do when life happens? We follow the example of Jesus. Sometimes we cry. Sometimes we bring our anger to God. Sometimes we step away to be alone with him. And always we trust the Father. Because here's the good news. Life may happen, but God is still sovereign. Pain may come, but God is still present. Storms may rise, but God is still in control. Romans chapter 8, verse 28 says, and we know that all things work together for good to those who love God. Not some things, not easy things, all things. Even heartbreak, even betrayal, even loss, even suffering. God can take what the enemy meant for destruction and turn it into redemption. So if life has hit you recently, if you've been crying, if you've been angry, if you've been exhausted, you're not weak. You're human. And even Jesus experienced the weight of life. But here's the difference between despair and hope. Jesus didn't stay in the grave. And the same power that raised Jesus from the dead is still working in your life today. So don't give up. Don't walk away from God. Don't let life convince you that the story is over. Because with God, resurrection is always possible. Life may happen, but God still wins. And if you trust him, so will you. Please subscribe, like, and share this video. Don't forget to hit that bell icon so that you'll receive notification that another video has been added. Thank you for watching.